Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Yeah, me's like, waiting. I'm here. Just wanted to make sure that I lit it up with the right one. Again, when we do this in portrait landscape mode, I have to make sure that I go with the correct side. Just wanted to make sure that, let's shut that down. We have the mute off. Outstanding. We're good to go. All right. So today we're going to be talking large dates, small dates. And so we're looking at 1982, 1974S, and then we're looking at the 1960s. So we're going to be looking at 3 cents, and there's some important distinctions that need to be made. Again, we've had a lot of questions on this. Last week, it was unanimous in chat that we talk about this particular item. And so again, we got Paula up here, we've got Eric up here, and we're supposed to have Chuck. So as soon as Chuck comes up, we'll bring him up on screen.
You are not live in your portrait, by the way.
I'm not live in my portrait.
No, I just wanted to interrupt you before you went too far, too long, to let you know.
Okay, let me figure out what's going on there.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the interruption.
I wonder why. Interesting. Thank you for letting me know. Wonder why I didn't go live. Yeah, it says upcoming.
Yeah. Well, I see waiting. Good morning, AZ. Good morning, me. Good morning, Jeff Davis. Great Scott. Good morning. Happy Sunday, Malcolm. Good morning. Eric Bayer. Good morning. Good morning, Dan. Technical difficulties. Gotta love technology.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it didn't show up.
Good morning, Stan Horn.
Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for this. Sorry about this. I'm trying to figure out what's happening on the landscape side. Well, while I figure out what's going on with the landscape side, let's go ahead and begin this discussion. So this is the 1960, 1974, and the 1982. We're going to be discussing live.
And 1970.
And 1970. Okay. We're going to be discussing large date versus small date. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Eric and Paula to do this to start off. They showed a couple items. Eric, I'm going to have you show your screen and start walking through some of this. Okay. You and Paula can talk about it. I'm going to go off camera for just a minute, and I'm going to work on trying to figure out why the portrait mode isn't up. So,
all right, let me get my screen share up.
This is the bane of every new collector, and not even necessarily new collector, and also people, educators.
All right.
All right, so let's check and see if we're live on portrait now.
And
for the sake of time, I only did the payment dates, except for the 70S, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got you up. I'm going to make you large. I'm going to go off camera for just a second. I'm going to work on doing this. Thanks, folks.
Is a 1960 large date. One of the bigger diagnostics is the tails on the 9, and we will overlay it with a 60 small date.
Oh, looks like a class 3.
It looks like a class 3 double die. That's right. And then that would be the small date right there. But we'll go back here So you can go back and see the difference, that there is a moderate difference. Some of them are not, like the 74 you'll see will not be as significant as the 60D or the 60P and D. So always, when you look at the 60D small date, they're always stubby on the 9 and the 6, and the O is a little bit smaller.
I always look at the inside of the 6 and inside of the 0.
Yeah, and then
too.
right here too, you've got that master hub doubling.
Yeah, and it's
There.
bigger. You got a bigger circle inside.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is the ultimate easiest way to determine a 60 P or D large date and a 60 P or D small date. Let's see what my next slide, I believe. Oh, look at this. Get right into the meat and potatoes.
Yes.
That is a 1970S small date. Now, you can see my pointer. The best way to determine the small date is you see this loop and it shoots straight across the tip of the loop. If you were to connect a straight line to the top of the 9. Also, you hear it called a level 7. When you see the next photo, you will realize that it's actually, that's kind of a, not a real accurate description. A better way would say the 7 and the 0 are different sizes.
Yeah, I hear too. High 7, low 7. I hear that a lot too.
There is the large date. And you can see it looks a little bit lower. But if you were to line the 1 up, the 1 goes through. It's just like the tip of the 0 and the tip of the 9 are a little higher. And then you have, I did move this one aside a little bit so you could see the difference.
That was smart.
But ultimately, the 7 is the same height and the 1 is the same height. It's the top of the 9 that is higher and the top of the 0 that is higher. And of course, you see the difference in size.
You got to look at the bottoms too, though.
Yeah.
The way the
7 and the 0 are bigger dimensionally from the top to the bottom. And that right here, this is the one that everybody always gets wrong.
It is. Show them the slit and the 7 on the large date too.
Yeah.
Go back to that previous slide.
Oh, yes.
The
yes.
slit and the 7.
There's a split up here in the 7. This picture doesn't show it. Let me.
That last one that you showed though, the one.
Let me get back to
Go
that.
forward. There you go. Right there. That shows it.
Yep. You're talking right here, right? Yep. And yeah, that's another easy way.
Nobody ever looks for that. And Chuck, I thought that was genius when he pointed that out.
When I first got into this, everybody says, oh, you have to look at the RTY and Liberty. No. It's always a soft strike on a small date. That is correct. But there's lots of large dates that have the exact same soft strike on Liberty. So it's not a very reliable way to tell the difference. And numerically, large dates are probably 99 to 1 or even higher to small dates. Small dates are very hard to find.
They have come down in price though.
Yeah, I think they're about $40 now, aren't they?
Oh man, I saw one go. Well, it depends on condition. Let's just put it that way. It depends on condition because I did see a circulated example.
Circulated probably worth $10.
Yeah.
The uncirculated one's $40 for one that's kind of a slider to probably even $100 for one that's really nice.
Yeah, and
I do know
you can find them in Business Strike and Proof.
Yep. And I do know that they were in demand at the fun show. People were looking for 70S small dates.
I think people are filling albums, Eric.
Business. This show was nice. There was actually coins here.
Yeah, I think people are filling albums. I think that I've heard that the last couple shows people have talked about that it's been a lot of numismatics.
Yeah, I like last year in the winter, January, it was dealers trying to get rid of their silver. This year it was I searched from 10 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night nonstop.
Nice.
And I didn't get to all the tables that I wanted to go to and I spent too much money, so I just left.
That's a problem. Well, if you
Actually,
got
that
what you
wasn't a problem because
No, if
the
you got
last
what you
3 or 4
wanted.
shows, I struggled to spend money. And the dealers were happy. They were saying they were making money this time.
Good morning, Ray.
So we could move on. This
Good
one, I
morning, Eric,
believe,
Matthew, Papa York. Good morning.
is. Good morning, Ringmaster Ray. All right. This is the 74 large date.
Mm-hmm.
One of the keys you'll see on this one is a little bit fatter 7 and 9. Almost looks like a class 6 double die, but it's not. Then you have the God. This is the easiest way to actually tell the difference in the 74 large and small dates. That is God, and it's close to the rim.
That's funny. Yeah, I go to we because it's the same
Yep.
way. Yep.
And then there's an overlay of the large versus small.
You'll also notice once again, Eric, that space between the 4 and the rim.
Yes. It goes all the way around the devices on the outside of the design. But for the sake of time and not taking 1,000 pictures, I just did a couple spots. And then there's an overlay of where God sits in comparison to the God of large date. The small date is from here to the top of the O. The large date is from here to the top of the O there. So it's almost the whole thickness of design away from the rim. And then, of course, you have the 74 small date, where the date is pretty much the same size. Like Paula said, the date is kind of stretched towards the rim on the large date. So if you go back again, you'll see that
4 is different too. The 4 is
it's fatter.
Squat, and squattier.
This corner is close to the rim. This corner is further away from the rim.
But this is a pretty insignificant.
Yeah, you can open a roll of 74 and find both of them. Mm-hmm. It's almost 50-50. It was a mid-year design change. And they use the dies at the same time. So like I say, it's not uncommon to open a roll and find large dates and small dates in there. Then we get to the bane of everybody's existence.
The bane of my existence, that's for sure.
And that is a 1982 large date. And then that's an overlay with a small date where, again, you can use the space from the edge of the 2 to the rim. You can see I made this one black and white so you can actually see it, and I lined up the 1.
I love that.
So you can see the 8 right there, and then the 2. Now we'll go to the 2 in the small date.
So petite.
And this is the prime example. It's got the curve, whereas the large date just comes down and goes over. It's basically straight. So that right there is the difference between all of them. And is there anything that anybody needs to know about any one of them? And I can I've got pretty much all the coins here that I could go into.
Yeah, and the whole entire design around the perimeter is different on the small and large date.
That's right.
It's you'll notice on how petite and refined these numbers look. It's the same way with Liberty and In God We Trust.
Right.
And you'll also notice on the 2, that you can fit an entire another 2 on the small date between the 2 and the rim. You could put an entire another 2 there. You can't do that with the large date.
Yeah, so she's talking over here.
Now.
This is the area where you see my pointer going around. This is where she's referencing where the large date is over here. You wouldn't be able to get that. Yeah.
Right here. And then the large date would be right about right here at the end of the 2. A lot of people, even with bad pictures, they're easy to diagnose. That's why you see a lot of people say, no, that's a large date. And everybody's like, well, you can't even see the picture. How do you know it's a large date? Well, it's positional. It has nothing to do with actually even seeing the date.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's go over some of the easiest items to look for. So you went over a lot of the technical pieces. So let's go ahead and show them on the coins. You have the coins. Let's show them.
I do have some. What coins do we want to start with?
I would say start with 60. We'll end the bane of everybody's existence at the end.
Well, I don't have a copy of 70S out. I looked. I know I own about 10 of them.
Not a problem.
But,
I got some photos I can bring up.
I've got the large date sitting out on the desk, but I don't have a small date sitting out on the desk. All right.
I could go grab mine. Do you want me to go grab mine? I have a raw one I can grab.
Yeah, you can grab.
Let me get my scope up.
Do you want me to grab one, Eric?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hang on. Let me go grab my scope and my.
So just tell me what screen you want me to show, Eric, and I'll pull it up.
My screen, is it not coming up yet?
I see your screen. Do you want the scope? Because I see your 84.
Yeah, I got the scope on screen share.
Okay. You'll need to.
Do I need to redo it?
Yeah, because it's only pulling up the copy of the 82.
All right.
And I've got this that's up. It shows the difference between the 70 and the 70S. So that's already there. So I do have that already up. And again, I'll be doing some breakdowns for everybody. I don't know why I did that. I hate it when it does that. Showing the large versus the small. So I do have some of these up for everybody so that they can see exactly what's going on. All of these resources will be copied and put into they'll be put into shorts, but they'll also be put into my community page. So I have a bunch of these items for you all.
All right. So did you get the? Says I'm in the basement.
Got it.
There we go.
So
and this
real
is, of course,
quick,
the same coin that you guys were just looking at.
Yep, real quick. I'm going to do a quick adjustment of the screen on my. Oh, I don't have to worry about the portrait side. Never mind, because I had to cancel the portrait side.
My scope locked up, so we are not using this. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, YouTube told me that the stream element was not functional, so they might be having issues with vertical streaming, or it might be a Streamlab issue for dual streaming.
Well, that scope is going to be done till after the broadcast because it's not. This is the second time this. Oh, you know what? I can fix this.
Unplug it.
Yep.
Yep. Just pop that cord out and plug that cord back in. So, Paula.
Yes.
Do you know why the guy put a bunch of coins in the freezer?
Uh-oh. Why?
He wanted cold hard cash.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
I'm loading a bunch of coin-based dad jokes on YouTube Shorts. So.
Okay, let me do that. You're so silly.
Hi, Siren. I got a bunch of them. I probably made like 30 shorts last night. My daughter and I were sitting around telling stupid dad jokes, and she's like, Dad, just make these into shorts. I'm like, I think I'm going to do that. Because they're all coin related, so.
All right. We got the back in the basement.
Got you.
Scope is turned around. Whoops.
Chuck just texted me and said he'll be on with us in just a couple minutes.
All right. Now he's the expert. He got all sorts of weird ways to tell these things apart.
Indeed. So I'm going to make a quick adjustment for those of you watching. If you see my screen do something funky, I'm going to try and make it a little bit bigger. Give me just a second. This is a temporary adjustment.
And it's weird. If you saw this coin in your hand, you would never think that it had these little spots on it. It's a beautiful coin.
Okay. And Great Scott's watching. He's like, dude, you have a whole nother view for that. I know. I messed up. There we go. My studio mode won't come up. So, not working.
I have a 70 down in the basement too. When you get to it, just so you know.
Now, one of the reasons that they changed from the small date to the large date is the dies were breaking right in here,
Yeah.
right in here, over. There are tons of the BIEs and filled B or R's and B's.
Okay.
And here's an interesting fact is that the reason the 1960p small date is valuable is the mint started production in January, and they realized that these dies were failing prematurely. And so they started a redesign on the die, and they stopped manufacturing Lincoln Cents at the Philadelphia Mint sometime in late January. So from later in January through mid-March, all the Lincoln Cents were made at the Denver Mint, and they were small date Denver Mint.
Okay. So I'm doing
Right
something. I'm doing something really quick, and I'm going to show everybody. I don't know if it's going to work. I increased
Right
the
about
size of my pointer. Do you guys see a larger pointer on your side, or is it still small?
I don't see nothing.
Oh, you don't see it on your side?
I
Okay.
just see Eric's screen.
Okay. I was trying to change the pointer size. See how you have your hand there, Eric?
Yeah.
I was trying to see if I could change the pointer size to make it easier for people, but it looks like my pointer size is still small. So, okay.
In
I got no
mid-March,
comment.
the die shop makes the new dies, starts distributing them out. So they start making Lincoln Cents about the end of March again in Philadelphia. And that is why the rarity of the 60, like in a lot of them, like it's even a 1960D, you can open a roll and it can be half small date and half large date. It's not uncommon for that to happen. If you open a roll of 60p, while I'm sure it's not impossible to find a small date, it shouldn't happen because there was no Lincoln Cents produced at the mint for almost 2 months. So you either get a solid date roll or a solid date roll of large date. So when you see these advertisements on eBay, search the 60p roll. You might find a 60p small date. It's like finding an 82D small date copper, basically.
It's a gimmick just to get you to buy it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But like 70S, you definitely can find a small date within rolls. I've got about 10 to a dozen of them, and they were found in a $5 mint assay bag, where I got this $50 bag, and it had 3 $10 bags and 4 $5 bags, and what it was samplings from the San Francisco Mint that were sent to the assay office to just look at the quality of them, and then they were put in an assay bag from Washington D.C., and then they were sent to a bank. And I found about a dozen of them in one of the $5 bags.
Nice. I found mine. This one I'm going to show you in a circulated roll. You'll see that right off the bat. You'll see that.
Yeah, and there you go. See the tail of the 9? It's pointing through the rest of the date, whereas the tail in the large date points into the mint mark.
And
then, of course, you've got the 7.
So let's break that down a little bit. Paula, can you go back to the other one for just a minute? So to talk layman's terms, what he's talking about is here can you push it to the right just a little bit?
What?
Can you move your coin to the right just a little bit?
Move it to the right. To the
Or
right.
the other, there you go. Because it's not showing up on the screen because I have it zoomed in.
Oh,
Look who's
yeah.
here.
I see.
Hey there.
Hey,
morning.
good morning, sir.
What's
How are you?
happening?
I'm awake.
Now he will have a dozen more ways to tell these apart.
Right. So what he's talking about is here in the 9. See how it kind of curls back in? It actually comes through this way. What he's talking about with the large date is it actually comes down and points down this direction. So I know it. He said the same thing. I just want to show people when they're talking about the curvature, he's talking about this coming across through the date instead of this coming across down into the S. So that's one of the items. I'm going to actually zoom this back out a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the screen.
Why am I not seeing that on your live? I'm not seeing that showing. Oh, there it is. Because I'm
You're
like
lagging.
50.
You're like
I'm
2 minutes.
way lagging. Yes.
You're lagging a little bit. I'm gonna readjust this a little bit
A lot of it.
to get this back in so that you can see the whole thing. So Chuck, how have you been, my friend?
This is the fugly queen.
I'm doing fine. I'm doing well.
Good. I appreciate this.
Long trip starting tomorrow. Going
Nice.
from North Carolina to St. Louis.
It'll be fun though.
Oh yeah.
And if it's like the fun show, it was good for buying.
Well, good.
Yep.
I have needs.
Yep. I know.
I have needs and wants. I see we're talking about 1970 a small date, and it happens to be a small date right there. Nice.
It's a fugly one.
I have pictures.
Do you
Show
want to
them,
pull some
show
up?
them.
You're more than welcome to share your screen.
Show them.
I can bring you up.
We showed your pictures on your website because I absolutely love that you talk about the slit and the 7 on the large date and nobody else does.
How about that?
Pulling it up now. Outstanding. Hey, I just showed that
Yes.
picture just a second ago.
Right there.
Yeah. Can we see my cursor?
You can.
I can, yes.
Awesome. That makes it really easy. I don't know what you guys have said so far. I'm sorry for being late.
Oops. Hold on.
But here's the general main differences that I go for on the 70S large and small date is that well, first of all, 95% of the time, if you find a 70S, you found a large date. That goes without saying, especially if you find it in change. I think I've been through easily a couple of million coins in my lifetime, and I have found one 1970S small date in change. That should tell you something.
They're not very common.
No, definitely not common. Let me turn my feedback down just a little bit here.
Does that mean I can charge more for mine?
Absolutely. It's definitely a seller's market. You can charge whatever you want. Okay, so see this little point to the 9, the inside of the 9, that's like the number one thing that I go for because the shape of the 9 is so different. Here it just kind of looks like it kind of droops in and points down toward the S or points down below the bottom of the 7. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the small date. It has a sharp point on the inside here, and it just kind of hooks in and points straight back toward the 7. So if the 9 points toward the 7, it's a small date. If the 9 doesn't point toward the 7, then it's not a small date. The other big difference, this only works on proofs and on higher grade coins. If you're like trying to look at one that's heavily circulated, it's not going to help you a whole lot. But this thing right here on the 7, this little crease that runs across the 7 that kind of separates the two parts of the 7, that's only the large date. The small date, they're all one piece. You can see that right there. There's no crease running across it at all. My puppy has decided to visit.
I love that. Like that. Chuck's the only one I've ever heard talk about that.
The crease on the 7
Yeah,
and my
the
puppy.
crease on the 7.
And my puppy.
And your puppy.
Yeah, my
That's not,
puppy.
that's not a real puppy. Good morning, Sherm.
Yeah.
Now, do
for
you
sure.
find, Chuck, that the people that use the soft Liberty as a diagnostic, that's not real reliable?
It isn't reliable.
Mm.
Now, this is kind of an extreme case right here. It's not very common for the Liberty to be that soft or that strong. There's a lot of mix in between, and I never look at Liberty. I just don't care to even look because they're too similar to one another, and they just don't. There's not anything that can really be determined 100% by looking at that. It'd be the same as just looking at the mint mark. You just can't tell. The date is really the number one diagnostic and really the only place I bother looking. Another one that is kind of major and makes it easier if you have a worn coin and can't tell about the 7, and the 9 might be obliterated by a big rust spot, by a big corrosion spot or something. If you look at the bottom of the 7,
Mhm.
it's really important. They called this, when they first started making these and people discovered them, they called this the low 7,
Loves
and
it.
this was the high 7.
Mhm.
And part of the reason that they called it the low 7 and the high 7 is they're essentially the same size. There's not really a small.
They aren't. I got an
Right.
overlay. The 7 on the large date is almost 20% longer at the base.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But the 7 drops below the level of the bottom of the 0
Zero.
large date. So the 7 is actually larger. I mean, it drops down farther. And then over here, you look, you got a level 7. So they called this the level 7 and the low 7.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, if you take enough time to stare at the pictures, you can see the obvious differences, and they become more readily apparent when you actually see a coin. And that's one of the things that I always tell people, and I know this is kind of counterproductive to searching through coins and finding value, but if you have one in hand and you're able to study one in hand, it just makes it pop. It took a while for me to figure all that out. I spent a lot of times in the 80s and 90s really staring at 1970s, trying to figure out the differences. And back then, all we had was a red book, and it was kind of horrible at trying to show you the differences. And after I really figured it out, it just popped, it clicked, and I've never had any trouble since.
You know, Chuck, I think that's can be said for the 82. Also, people when they have both of them in hand, the first time they see them in hand, they never unsee it again.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Yep. It just there's a lot of things that once you've seen it, it becomes obvious,
Mhm.
and you don't have to question it again.
True double dies. Once you find a nice double die, you never have a problem after that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, some people do.
Well,
Well,
It's not for everyone.
some people just want to shop for answers.
Let me start up my microscope. I have a 70S small date under my microscope right now.
Me too.
yeah, I couldn't find one. I looked through
Friend.
10 boxes yesterday and couldn't find one of them.
You probably have a nice BU example.
Okay,
Mine's
I don't know which one
there.
this is right off, but we're gonna figure it out.
I have one in a proof set too, but
Okay. So, give the audience a chance to take a peek at this. Are we?
where do you have it?
Oh,
in the
you know
basement?
what? I have. How do I do this? I guess I need to go with. I'm actually showing a browser, not a screen. So
You'll have to unshare and then reshare.
Yeah.
okay.
Morning, Kraken. Morning, Sissy Atwell.
Thanks for the $2 super chat,
Nope.
Kraken. Appreciate you, bud.
Oh, I see. Okay. I got
And
it.
y'all,
I
please
was
smash
thinking-
and share this out. Okay, it's really cool to be able to have Chuck Daughtry, who is, the king of Lincoln Sense. This guy knows more about Lincoln Sense than I forgot about everything I've ever done. So
Morning, Herman.
it's really important to share out this information so that people have it. So please do so.
Morning, ATS.
This one happens to be the bad coin, but this isn't the
That's
small
the
date.
large date.
There you
Right?
go. You see the crease. It's pretty obvious, the crease running across the 7. This 7 is actually lower than the 0 by a fair margin.
And on the bottom, yeah.
The
quite a bit.
bottom, it sinks down lower. Your hook on the inside of the 9, you can't really tell easily with this one because it not only has a little spot on it, but it's inside of a plastic screw down holder, and it has a fiber running right over the 9, obviously. So, but let's see the star of the show here.
There she is.
So that's the 70S small date for you right there.
Got a fiber in that one too. The irony. Both of them right at the 9.
It's
The
true.
irony.
But look at how that fiber displays how the
Illustrates.
9 points to the 7.
Yeah.
Yes, the
That
9
is
does
kind of
indeed
ironic.
Point to the 7.
How
But
ironic.
the 7 does not have any kind of a crease running over it. The 9, 7, and 0, the top of the 3 digits are actually really level with one another, which is why they used to call this the level 7.
And I
You
think
still
that's
find-
more accurate than the high 7, low 7.
It is. Because
When I did that overlay here, I found that the 1 and the 7 were in the top of it were in the same position.
Yeah, if
The
you're
9 and
looking at the
0
tops
were
of the
pushed up.
devices, yeah. If you're looking at the tops
Right.
of the devices, yeah.
But, let's just for the sake of argument, take a look at the Liberty. Okay, it is kind of weak on this one.
Yeah, mine is too.
And so it usually is.
But on the large date, if you have a large date that has had any type of working of the die, any type of maintenance on the die, a braiding or anything where it's had a clash, you're going to get a weak Liberty.
Sure.
And so
That's what I say. It's not uncommon to see weak liberties on
yeah,
large.
it gets confusing. So don't.
I would
use
give
that.
my only eye tooth if this was the double die, but it isn't.
Oh, that would be nice.
Well, but something I did notice.
I want a proof.
Something I did notice.
The large over the small. That's what I want.
This appears to be a double die, though.
Well, if it is, Chuck will find it. I don't see it. So
Well, I would almost have to take this out of the holder to tell for sure. But what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing.
I would look at the top of the 7, but I don't see anything. So you see things more than anybody.
I see a lot.
You and Eric. Yeah, you do.
Well, see, I was looking. It looks like a tiny separation line here in the center of the 0. That would give me the idea that there's doubling that continues around, but I don't see it. So I'm going to quit wasting time on that right now. But that's what I saw anyway.
Good morning,
Along
farm
with a
dog.
polka dotted rabbit in the corner of the room, but
Farm
Yeah,
down.
so-
What's going on, Herman?
Good morning.
I don't know if there's anything else I can help with. I'm just kind of, I don't know,
Oh, there's lots of stuff.
talking. Okay, give me something else.
Well, the important
Well,
thing,
we
the
can go to a
important,
different date.
yeah, but
And
the
we do
important
have
thing to look at
images,
is that a lot of people are just trying to really understand the differences, right? So we've got, 60, 70, 74, 82. So kind of just go through each one of the coins and just like, this is what that looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're going to hear us talk about different diagnostics that you can look for. A lot of times, if you just find one that works for you best, like on the 70, I like to look at the bottom of the 7, and I look for that crease too on uncirculated examples, like Chuck said.
Right.
But I like to look for the bottom of the 7. That works for me. Find one that works for you or a couple that work for you. You don't have to look for all of the diagnostics and use that.
Why am I
Everybody's eyes are
hearing
different.
Paula repeat her audio? Not sure.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have YouTube open. So
Yeah. I
I did
don't
give
either.
Frosty a bunch of images, Chuck.
Tell me if it goes away
Oh.
now. Go ahead and talk for a second, Paula.
hello. Sibilance.
It doesn't help if you say the same word twice, though.
Oh, sorry. What do you want me to say?
Check. 1 1 1 2 2 2.
Oh my gosh, it's repeating.
Let's see here. If you want me to, I could talk about the 82s for a while.
Yes, all day.
Here, it's funny about that double die that you said you thought you saw.
Yeah.
I think you did see it. I think it's WDDO 28.
Yeah. I'll have to take a good look.
Yeah. And it shows at the bottom of the O and 0.
During a show isn't a great time for discovery.
Right. Well, I was just browsing through and figured
It shows on the 0 or off the 0?
it's on the 0, and then there's thickness on
Isn't there
Liberty
one
and
that
Madly
has
Trust
a
and
little
70
bit
a
like
day.
to the south?
Yeah, on the bottom of the 0, you see like a little
Yeah.
line cut in.
Yeah.
One more time. Let's see here.
Oh my gosh, I remember when StreamYard and when we used to use Zoom, that was horrible. Trying to share things, and that was terrible. But
Morning, Jack.
figuring out StreamYard in the beginning was terrible. I still don't know it all.
Okay, there it is again.
Yeah,
So
right at
does
the bottom
Logic
of the O.
asked about the 1970S. So if you were to find a 1970S, number one, anytime you're talking about value, you're always looking at the quality of the coin. So you can't just say what's it worth, because that doesn't give us an idea. So if you're looking at the one that Chuck had on his screen, now we could say that particular coin. So that 1970S that you showed, Chuck, what do you think
Can
the
we not
value on
see
that
it?
particular coin would
We
be?
can see it right now. Okay. I just want to make sure, so I'm not looking at YouTube. This coin right here, at best, would grade a 62 red, and it's just got stuff all over it. And at a 62 red, we're probably talking about a $20 coin.
I think this is my 70S proof
Once you get down to
case.
higher circulated grades like AU, if it's a brown coin, AU, we're probably talking about $15 to $20. And then better coins, a bright red coin that's not got any crap on it, is that's gonna instantly be a $25 coin plus. And if you get them in really, really nice shape, they can go up to $75.
So here's the important thing to think about this. Again, when you're talking about value, a lot of people are like, well, $20 isn't a lot of money. You're talking about 2,000 times face. So
Well, you're also talking about just below a grading fee.
yeah, so you're looking at something. Obviously, this is not something that you would want to grade. This is also something that you would, I mean, if you have a 1970 small date S, that's something that not a lot of people would have. This is a good item to keep. Now, if you want to turn it over, again, if you sell this for $20 or $25, you're talking about 2,000 or 2,500 times face. That is a pretty good return on investment. So if you find this searching, if you don't want to keep it and you want to turn it over, again, it's the same. So I don't know if people are having feedback, but if they are, like I'm hearing some people say it is and some people say they aren't. If it's happening only with half of you, it's not us. There's something in YouTube, but I can tell you that trying to run this from the portrait mode gave me major issues this morning. So I've tried to turn down the audio on the on my side. So like I'll hear her say a sentence and then it repeats it. Not all the time, but it's happening. Yeah, not sure what that is. Try hitting refresh and seeing if coming back into the screen helps.
For a double die, I love it. I have my 70S small date proof up too. If he's
Oh, go ahead.
no, have you made any determination?
I'm thinking it's a double die. I mean, I can see that separation
I
right
see
there on
the
the bottom of the
separation
zero.
on the bottom of the 0, but I don't see anything
And-
else. But
Well,
that's just me.
I'd have to have another coin for comparison,
Maybe
which is
'cause
an important thing. Even people who know what they're doing and been doing this for a long time still have to use other coins.
Warren.
But I'm seeing a lot of thickness in the S right here, and I'm
Look
seeing
at
a
the
lot of,
reverse
I
on the
see.
lower
I
bay
did see
one.
that left side of the U, but I couldn't. I can't tell if that's just because other side is the die's worn or
Yeah,
what?
WDDO.
7,654.
No, 28. WDDO 28.
Is it this
Is
mark
is
right here,
this,
Eric?
Those little die dots in the lower bay one.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
So we do have a double die, and I wasn't running empty this morning.
And I didn't see it. So there you go.
I
So,
actually,
But this
I
is
actually
why
have something. Yay!
this is why when you have somebody like Chuck on the stream, you really want to take time and watch what he's doing, because there are 4 of us here, and he found that like this.
well, his eyes and Eric's
Yeah.
eyes like immediately go to spots like that. Mine don't. Like I have to be looking for it. In cases like that where they're minor like that, I have to be actually looking for it. So
But the important thing to think about is that, again, with practice and with knowledge, again, you have to know what you're looking for. Okay. So when you're setting yourself up for looking at coins, number one, know what you're looking at. If you can look at all the same dates and all the same marks, then do it. Make sure you have your resources available, right?
Morning,
Don't just look
Tina.
at the coin, because if you look at the coin, you're not going to know where to look at. Make sure you have your resources, know what you're looking for, and then look for those items. But just because, like Paula said, she didn't see it, I didn't see it until he said there was a separation in the 0, and I was like, oh, okay, I know what he's looking at now.
yeah.
I wouldn't have seen that, right? And even if I had the resource available, I might not have seen that. So just because you search a roll of coins, or just because you're looking for these items and you don't see it, doesn't mean that you're done with that roll. Set that roll aside, learn a little bit more information to come back to it.
I have that before we move on to the 82. I have that proof if you want to pull that up real quick, if people want to see it.
Sure.
If not, it's not a big deal. I can just put it
Nope.
away. And
You're up right now.
Nice.
yeah, I didn't know if people wanted to see an example of a proof, but. And that little extra on the top of the 0 is nothing.
That's a reflection from the plastic, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it's still in the proof set. So they're out there. You guys can find them. And they're fun to cherry pick.
This was a
Actually-
coin that a lot of people seem to be after for some reason at the fun show when I was there. There was at least a dozen people looking for graded examples of this coin.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Graded
Yeah.
examples. That
They
surprises
wanted graded examples. They didn't want a raw
Huh.
example.
Really? That
Yeah.
surprises me.
So
That's 'cause
Eric,
not very many people get them graded.
Eric Matthew just made a
True.
great comment that the $20 bill loses value while the coin usually increases. So
There you
Again,
go.
if-
That's actually a good
The $20 coin? Yeah, it sure does.
yeah, you know what would make this even better, Paula?
Yeah, if it was a large over small date.
Or there was no S.
That's what would make it even better. Find one of those.
Yeah, cool stuff. All right, Chuck, pulling you back up real quick before we move on. 1970, small date, large date, proof. Are there any other questions on this particular coin before I have Chuck move on to the 1982? So let's go ahead and ask any questions. If we have any questions regarding the 1970S, please do so now before we move on. That way, if there's anything, we're not moving on and somebody's like, well, you never answered my question. Good morning, Brown Sugar.
Good morning, brown sugar.
So we'll give it just a second and then we'll fly back over to, actually, I'm going to share. Oops, I just removed you. Sorry about that. So any more questions about this particular coin? We went over a couple items just kind of as a review. The 9 is the key element here. Looking at that 9, it does a point at the S or does it point back into the date? Looking at the top 3, 970, making sure all 3 of those align. Looking at the bottom of the 7, does it extend far down past the 0, or are they about
Ooh.
even? Those are 3
Ooh.
major things you want to
Are
look
you
for.
showing off, Chuck?
A little bit.
Oh, yeah, he is. Stop it.
This isn't a large date. It's also not a small date.
Yes,
This,
it's,
this is both.
This is
it's
both. Yeah.
Look at that bottom of that 7. crazy.
That's a pretty one, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
That is a pretty one.
It's in a scratchy
that-
holder, but I don't want to take it out of the holder. I don't have any gloves on.
Oh. I
So
thought
what
maybe
would
it
this
was
coin
on
sell
a set.
for?
1 million.
I've seen 2 of them sell ever.
Yeah.
One of them was in a 65 holder, a proof 65 holder. I think it sold for like $180.
What?
Yeah. And then the other one was raw, but it was it was a really nice toned coin. And it sold for, I think it was $250.
When? Back in 1964?
Yeah, before it was made. Back when they were still planning it.
Holy cow. I would snag that up for sure. Really? Are they
But-
really that?
But now I probably wouldn't give this one away for under $400 or $500.
Yeah.
There's your
Yeah.
extra
So
thickness
finding
and liberty.
again, looking at errors and varieties. Okay. Sometimes
That's lovely.
we have to take into consideration the
It's
rarity,
got a hair.
the quality, but also the collectability. So this is one of those that,
Oh my gosh.
Eric was like, "Are you showing off?" He's like, "Yeah," because
You
it's a
can.
beauty. This is a really, really nice specimen. So
I
Oh,
paid
would
$1
show
for
that
this
off
one.
all the time.
you paid $1 for this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, he found it in a dealer box. Probably found it in one of those red boxes that we all like to
Probably.
search through. Pick through.
This is another cute one.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, across the
That is a
7 there.
large date. But it's also tripled.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would argue
Yep.
quadrupled, but I don't think it really matters once you
So-
get to tripling, right?
I
Real
don't think
quick,
it
can you do me a
matters.
favor? Can you zoom in just a little bit to the top of the 7 and the 0? And let's really show them exactly what it is that we're looking at.
Sure.
So you can see those beautiful lines. There you go. That's beauty. You
That's
can see
lovely.
those beautiful
I gotta go
lines in the 0 and in the 7, right? That's the doubling, the tripling. That's gorgeous.
But I've got something more to show you on this because this is where it actually shows up a lot better.
Oh Lord.
Oh wow. Look at the thickness. Look at that R.
See if I can turn it so that you can see the actual separation better. There you go.
Going.
Yeah, look at that R.
So it's like T T T T R R R R U U U U S S S S. It speaks to me.
This is when you want doubling. What's up, T-Bird? How you doing, brother? Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Do not want doubling.
Looking at one of these for the first time under a scope is a religious experience.
Look at that W there. Wow. So again, folks, you really when you're looking at these coins, you'll see him move, you'll see him shift the coin. You want to rotate these coins frequently, right? Because you want to make sure that what you see it. Sometimes the light doesn't show it, so you need to move it a certain direction. You'll see that when he's doing the positioning of these, he'll have the date up, and then the Liberty is sideways, and then the Liberty and this is upside down. So different angles, different positions show you the item better. So when you're searching coins, make sure you're rotating. Make sure you're looking at different things. You'll see he moves it around a lot, right? Because you want to kind of get a feel for it. There's a couple of things that are happening here. So if you're brand new to looking at coins, if you see something and you rotate it and it disappears, probably not something.
Man, that's sweet.
That is.
If you see
Got
it
it.
in different positions, but it shows better in one than in another, but it's still there when you rotate it, most likely you have something. If you're uncertain, set it aside and ask for help. That's when you take good quality photos and send it over to like Livecoin Q&A, send it to Paula, reach out to Eric and stuff like that, and ask that question.
All right. We're gonna do this one.
Stop
We're gonna
it.
take it out of the holder. Because I have
Yeah,
a little
and
pedestal.
Dan, that's another great point. Mint mark position. Mint mark position is another
Make sure
really
your
good
first
tell
part
when you're
here.
looking at verifying. So, and they can't be close when you're looking at validating against the site or something else. They have to be exact. It cannot be close. And so it's really important that you do this. Now, I'm repeating this stuff and saying this stuff. These guys are like, yeah, we know that. But there's a lot of people in here who might not. So again, I'm
Oh, look
going
at the
to
E.
ask
Look at the
these
side of the
questions.
E.
Oh,
Yeah,
God, that's
triple
pretty.
die.
Like
So
crazy.
is there anybody, real quick, is there anybody in chat who's looking at this and goes, I have no idea what you're seeing? Because if you're not seeing this, look at the L, look at that B inside, you'll see kind of like ripples in a pool. You know, you drop a marble in a pool or rock in a pool and you get the ripples. That's what you're seeing. It's the multiple stamping of this. You can see it in the E. You see it really nice in the B. And then there in that L,
But
you
you're
see the
not going to
thickness in
see
the
this
I.
type of thing on every double die. There are 9 different classes and they look different. So you're
Right.
not going to see this type.
And they're not created equal either.
Yes.
They're, I mean, some of them are huge and some of them aren't.
Exactly.
But here's a great example.
What do
So
you guys
see,
call them? Ticks and fleas?
see how he
Bluegills.
rotates this?
Bluegills, that's right. I got the fly poop and the pepper.
I get my lighting right, and then I rotate the camera to make the camera look at it in the right direction.
Yeah, so you can see the lines in the B, the E, but they don't show up quite as well as when he turns it upside down, or he turns it sideways. So again, rotating that coin, you can see how those lines really
But
pop.
it
I
never
can easily
changes.
show you.
It stays the same no matter how you turn that thing. It just stays the same.
Yeah,
It's just
but
the
they show up
lighting
better
hits
in
it
one
different.
position because of the
The
lighting.
lighting hits it different. Yeah.
Hi, Victoria. Good
Here's the
morning.
other. This is one way you can determine a class 1 rotated hub double die, is that it's like spokes of a bicycle wheel. Near the hub, near the center, the spokes are all closer together, and then as you get to the edge of the wheel, the spokes go further apart. So you can see the doubling better toward the edge of the design than you can toward the middle. And on a class 1 hub doubling, class 1 rotated double die, the doubling is going to be about the same going all the way around the coin.
All the way around.
So let me get this moved into the right place. So you can't see the separation real easily right here. And that's because I've got it rotated the wrong direction. If I did it like this, sometimes I have to play with it to get it right. But in this position right here, you can see the separation better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, it's very important that you rotate that. Thank you for showing that example, Chuck. It's
Sure.
I think really breaking this down for people it helps people understand that you can't just put it under the scope and do it. The other thing is, and folks, he's doing this, Paula would do this, Eric would do this. Grab a loop, right? You always want to confirm with the loop.
Well, I don't look at coins with my scope ever anyway, unless I'm doing it online, unless I'm showing coins on screen,
Yeah.
or if I really need to get in there super close for whatever reason to find a marker, maybe. Like if I can't verify for sure that I see like the marker that I'm looking for, then maybe I'll pull out my scope. But I rarely I just put it back together after having it in Tulsa. I just don't use it. I use my loop.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with a loop myself.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'm the
am
opposite.
gaining comfort.
And a lot of
with the
people are,
microscope.
Chuck. A lot of people are. A lot of people use their scope instead. Some people have eye issues that it's easier for them to use their scope. And
Coach asks a question. If it's tripled, is it still called doubling? No, it's called a triple die or a quadruple die.
It's called hub tripling, but I mean, breaking it down into semantics, I would say a double die regardless, because that's kind of what we always call them.
yeah.
This one's a double die with tripling. You could call it that way if you want to. I don't think there's any real scientific method to that. But officially, it would be a triple die or tripling. There's also quadruple die. I've seen quintuple dies. So just depends.
There's the 64D has a nice QDO on the Kennedy.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have It's important. Details are important.
Thinking about all the Lincoln cents I can think of, and I couldn't come up with one. My head just wasn't there.
Sorry.
Then I thought, well, maybe she's talking about a nickel.
No, not me. I wouldn't be talking about a nickel. Eric might be talking about a nickel.
I've got 200 rolls of proofs to go through.
Lucky you.
fun.
Yeah, right.
Oh, speaking of proofs, I may have somebody interested in picking up a bunch of proof nickels. I'm going to send
Picking
them
up
to
a
you.
bunch of proof nickels. I literally have 200 rolls of them.
Yeah, so
Why am
I
I
have
not
somebody that I'll be
screaming?
sending to you.
Okay. So this is 1982. No segue at all. Does everybody notice that we have some skin issues?
Slightly. He's got the pox.
Yes, these skin issues only show up on zinc coins. So if you're weighing your coins to figure out what's what and you see spots like this, don't bother. It's going to be a 2.7 gram zinc. That's going to be an every time thing, 100%, no excuses. Now, if it's not on there, it still could be zinc.
2.7.
Am I wrong? 2.5, sorry. 2.7 was a Steelies.
The steals, yeah. Sorry. I jump on any chance I can correct Chuck Daughtry. I'm jumping on that.
Oh, it's all good. I haven't had a full cup of coffee yet, so.
I'm like, wait a minute. Even with the tolerance, that's a little bit heavy. But...
Me asks,
But
do you
that-
find these with the naked eye, or are you always using a scope? Well, you can use a scope or a loop. It's preferred that you use a loop, but if you want to use a scope, you can. You just
Well,
need to
these are
understand that a loop
varieties.
is way better than...
Me.
With
These
a
are
scope,
vari-
it kind of
these are
depends
varieties.
on what your setup is, how your setup works. I have a way that I can sit 6 feet away from the scope and still look under it because I have a camera on the top of my scope that can show up on my screen live. And with the lighting set right, I can look through a roll of coins inside of 3 minutes. And so it just depends on how, my setup also costs close to $2,000. So it's not something that's like easy to replicate.
Mhm.
But something like what you're looking at right now, I can look through a roll of coins just like you're seeing right now in no time at all, and I don't even have to look through the microscope. So, yes, I'm still bragging.
That's okay.
Well,
Do
but you've
it.
had a number of years, and you've probably looked at how many hundreds of thousands of rolls.
Oh, a few.
Yesterday.
So again, when you're
Right.
talking about, it's like, well, I'm not seeing it. This is frustrating me. I don't know what you're looking at. This is why we do this, right? This is why we're having, and I'm not going to call him an expert because he hates it when I say that. The most educated when it comes to Lincoln Sense discuss these items. But again, as he stated before, even he, will make an occasional slip up. But what's important is he knows what he's looking at. But he
I
has his
think I'm
resources
still human.
available. He knows what's going on. He has other coins that he's looking at, or he has other photos that he's looking at. Now Chuck is a part when it comes to the knowledge that he has, particular with his Lincoln Sense. But he keeps his resources available. You go back to the old comment of Lincoln, right? I had 3 hours to cut down a tree. I'm going to spend 2 hours sharpening my axe. He has a very sharp axe when it comes to being able to see these things. And so he has honed his skills over years and years and years, and thousands and thousands and thousands of rolls, not coins, rolls. And so just take what you can. If you learn anything from this discussion, then it's been valuable. I don't expect anyone in here to understand every component of it. God knows I don't. Half the time he's looking at something, we always go back to like the double eyelids and go, I never see him. I can't see him. I just don't know what it is. So learn something and then search for that. and then keep those coins. Go back later when you learn something else and look for
Learn
that item.
something first before you start searching.
But really understand, look at lots of coins. What you do when you look at a lot of coins is you put that image inside your brain and you know what a normal coin looks like. That way, when something doesn't look right, it stands out to you. So don't beat yourself up that you're not finding everything. Don't beat yourself up that you can't see what we're seeing.
So Eric, you use your scope and confirm with your loop. You could cut one of those steps out.
I know, but I'm comfortable doing it that way.
Oh, I'm talking to the other Eric in chat. He said the same thing. I use my scope and confirm with my loop. Like if you just looked at your loop, you're good, right?
So a lot of the time when I hunt roll, I don't see what I'm looking for. I see something abnormal, and it triggers my brain to look harder.
The reason that I say what I say that a lot, like I'm constantly saying, just use a loop, is because I see so many new people coming into the hobby that immediately go and buy a scope, and then everything they see on the coin is something they're asking.
That's right.
They get obsessed with one coin, and because they see Elvis, right, or whatever they see on the coin, and they're convinced that that they're seeing something.
I think everybody here on the panel learned to search through a loop.
Right. And it's important to do that. It really is. And it's important to learn how to use your scope and to play with the lighting and to use an external form of lighting as opposed to the freaking little ring LED whatever lights on your scope. Those are horrible. It's important to practice with the scope. Don't immediately go to that. Like it's a waste of money to me. And you're gonna see so much on, like, let's look at shield scents. You put a shield scent under a scope, a brand new shield scent under a scope. Oh my gosh, every shield scent you look at is going to be a double dye because the reflection is so bad. Yeah.
But can I sell them?
Well, you could. But
actually, there is a 2024 double die reverses.
No, there's some really nice ones, Eric, but there's also crap that look like double dyes.
Yeah, and those are the ones that they send you, and you're like, yeah, I don't think so. And then all of a sudden, the venom emails start.
Or I can't tell. I just can't tell. Like
this coin right here on the screen, the 82D small date. Out of all the random emails and questions I get, that's the number one question. And they're always upset when I tell them it's not the coin they're looking for.
It usually coincides with some TikToker or somebody that just put out a new clickbait. You can find this in your pocket change crap, and then you'll get bombarded for a month.
And their numbers, I have no idea where they get their numbers from.
I don't know.
It must be from Temu or something. I don't know.
I'm surprised that Temu doesn't have one yet.
Right?
I don't know.
Let's not give any ideas.
Right.
So this is the small date. And the penultimate difference, the most obvious difference is in the two. The two on the large date kind of looks like a fourth grader drew it. And I'm not harping on fourth graders, but it doesn't look right. It just comes down, and then it looks like it's sitting in a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a swan.
Right? Yeah, like a swan or something strange.
Horrible.
But if you look at the small date actually has a very well stylized two.
Now, what was first? The large date was first, correct?
Yes. Large date was first. The small date was an effort to clean up the hub, clean up the design, and this is part of the problem right here. This is the large date, and your Liberty is getting so fuzzed out. Every single one of them is actually a double die. They're all Class 6 double dies, but that was on the master. So all of them are like that, not just some. And then here's your Liberty on the small date. You can really see the difference. It's just a lot more sharply cut. It's a lot thinner. It's farther from the rim. There's all kinds of differences to be able to tell the small dates from the large dates. And I just grabbed a coin at random.
That one just has all kinds of plating issues.
Yeah, it's got split plating and
Yeah.
all kinds of wonderful.
And that's another thing people will see and think is a double die. Split
Yeah.
plating.
All the time.
All the time.
Well, this coin's not as pretty, but the design's better.
Yeah.
And you see how it's all nice and squared off, really, really sharp corners.
Very
And you look
nice.
at the large date, and the large date's just thick and ugly, kind of like me. It's kind of thick and ugly.
I'm not going to disagree with him because his head grows.
Exponentially within minutes. Can't even fit through a doorway sideways. All right. So your large date, the date, there is another thing that people use on the date, but I don't because it's not really that important to me.
Eight.
But if you look at the inner holes of the 8, they're almost the same size on the large date. And then if you go to the small date, the top one's a lot smaller.
And you can use like we were saying earlier, almost like the 74 large date. Everything is pushed inside in inner, like the base of the 2 is further away from the rim than the base of the 2 on the large.
Yeah,
date.
you can fit another 2 in there on the small date.
That, interestingly enough, is why they changed the design in 74, is because the hubs were getting too mashed out, and it was actually the master die was getting too mashed out, and it was becoming obvious that they needed to
like a
change things
68
around a
issue
bit.
then.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of like the 68 when they changed to 69. They cleaned up the design a lot. And that's generally the reason why they do this. They don't do this just to make them pretty. They don't make them, they don't do this to make collectibles. The 1960 they changed because the small date was first, and they had a lot of issues with breaks in the dies because the design was just weak. And so they changed to the large date. And they just refined the design. They didn't necessarily intend to make a large date. They just refined the design, and it turned out to be larger. But there's your 82 small date again. Is it's always going to be sharp, crisp, thin. How many other adjectives that I can use to make it
In pimply.
obvious that the small date is just a prettier coin than the large date?
Yep.
And that's your bingo most obvious difference. There's a lot of other differences. I'm going to flip it upside down to make it easier for us to see this under a microscope, but for no other reason. You see how thick and ugly In God We Trust looks? This is a large date. Then we go to the small date, which is on the opposite side now. It's smaller, crisper. The letters are a lot sharper. They don't look like somebody modeled them out in clay and then mashed them with their fist before they showed it to you. They look real thin, real crisp, real nice, real sharp. And you go back over to the large date, and it's just kind of ugly. But, okay, say you don't have both coins together for comparison, because that makes it really easy. And you've only got one coin, and you don't know what you've got. You always go to that 2. That 2 is so obvious, even upside down. And you look over at the other one. There's just so many differences in the date. I was, should I even say this? I was 13 years old in 1982. And I turned 14 that year. And it was that summer when a friend of mine and I both kind of discovered that there was something going on.